Let's see if this works. Por favor. There it is. Alright. Once again, no thumbnail, because why would YouTube actually put the thumbnail I asked it to put on my videos, you know? Why would it do that? It's stupid. Why would I ever imagine it would do that? But it's fine. We're gonna do it. It's gonna be great. It's gonna be lit. Hello, hello, hello. We're here to stream once again. Oh, goodness. I have a video I need to make for a kind of channel update-ish kind of stuff, but it's not like super important, so I don't even know if I'm gonna finish that video or not. But hi, I'm streaming again. How's that for all y'all? So, yeah, we're gonna do some more streaming of some more Adoptables, yay! Because my November ones are almost sold out, almost. I'm just waiting on one, to be honest. So we're gonna do some December adopts, is what we're gonna be doing, and it's gonna be great. We're gonna party. For this one, I know last time I did these, I let y'all pick the order that I lined them in. I'm still gonna let y'all decide which ones I color them in, but in this one I wanted to line them myself and not have to vote on them every single time, so I'm just gonna go in order in this one. So, you know, so we have some adoptables here. I put a poll on DeviantArt because I was wondering if people wanted, like, quote-unquote holiday spirits, or if they wanted, like, winter-themed anthros, like snow buddies and stuff, and it was pretty even, so I decided I'd just go with both. So we have here today, on this day, we have this cute little, like, a winter rabbit, a cute little white rabbit that's going. We have an Arctic fox I'm gonna do. We have a snowy owl ice queen type thing going on. Then we got three spirits, and because I like A Christmas Carol a lot, they're the ghosts of past, present, and future. So we're gonna have a party. And yes, so that's what we're gonna be doing. And like with most any of my art streams, I will be primarily drawing, but if you want to ask me questions or something, or try and put me on a tangent, feel free. Just know that I might miss something because I'm focusing on my screen as opposed to the chat. But we're gonna get started, everybody. Why did I make that a clipping mask? I didn't want to do that. So, yeah, we're gonna get started over here. Yeah, Future is also my favorite. If I had something to do with them, I'd probably keep them, but we never know. I might still do that. Who truly knows? With me and my attitude. Because I have to keep, like, everything I make, because I have a problem. It's a bunny. Look at that bunny. I'm gonna go with, like, sometimes I like doing these little, like, button eye type things, where it's just, like, the little ovals as opposed to anything super detailed. There's just, like, some characters where I'm like, that's the best. Doop-a-doo. Time to do some fluff. Well, thank you. I appreciate it. Ambolinks, I think is how you say that. Thanks. Gotta give him big, floppy rabbit ears, as you do. how hard is it to give away adopts? They're OCs and then they're like your babies in a sense, so like how can you do it? Well, I mean, I'm not like emotionally the only reason why you get emotionally attached to an adoptable is because you like the design, you know? So, it's usually hard if I have like a good design and I'm like, oh, it's so pretty, I want to keep it. But like, typically you're not gonna, they're not like as much as my babies as like my actual story characters, you know what I mean? Um, the main adoptables that I really get attached to are just ones where it's like I look at them and I'm like, ah, shoot, you could have a really cool story and you got like a really cool aesthetic and all that kind of stuff. So, you know, it's always like, just, I don't think it's really, I don't really see adoptables as being like my babies as soon as I draw them, because when you draw them, they're literally nothing but a character design at that point, unless you yourself ascribe a personality or a character to them or a story to them immediately. So, you know, it is difficult sometimes, but after a while you just kind of get used to it, I guess. You kind of figure out what you can use and what you can't use and how to restrain yourself. Half the time I can't even say it, yeah. I've been trying to get better at pronouncing things. Speaking of stories, how's the Looniverse? I'm a bit out of the loop since I don't really use DA anymore. I mean, it's still like there. I mean, there's nothing like major that's changed with it. Not online, at least. Again, it's one of those stories where it's like I have it, but I'm not like, it's not going to be a thing anytime soon. It's just kind of going to be there for right now. Still need to work on more references and stuff, though. That is for certain. Fluffy, fluffy, fluffy. So fluffy. Mm. Are you planning on doing anything with your stories anytime soon, or you just want to focus on other things? I mean, I'm still working on all my stories. They're still there. It's just not like you're not gonna get a new comic or something anytime soon. I need to work on Seven Sins and a Baby more, but I mean, I'm doing stuff with them. There's just a lot of them are on DeviantArt and stuff. Gosh, I also need to work on the story more. I forgot what I know what I need to do with it next, but I've been procrastinating right now. I've been procrastinating, and now it's like I want to wait till after Christmas because I know I'm going to get something new, but I'm also worried about my files, so I don't want to like ruin all my files if I do. It's a lot, honestly. Doop doop doo. Doop 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 doo. Oop, I made that a little bit too poofy on that side. Just a little. Just a tad. I gotta give him his little feets. His little feeder feets. There they are. Little feets. Little bun beans. I don't know. I have no idea. I'm just trying to fill the void. I think that's it for the rabbit, honestly. I don't think there's really much else I need. Well, I guess I could give him, like, little tiny whiskers. Tiny itty-bitty whiskers, just to be cute. Yeah, there we go. That's the rabbit. Bam, bam. Boom, boom. I'm gonna go on to my Arctic fox. What is the next species you're going to do the next lore, Heaven's Proxy things? Please, snakes. Well, first I have to do all of the nymph gods, because that's what I've been doing, is I've been doing the species and then the gods, so I need to do the nymph gods first, which I already finished one of the 3, so, or actually, I'm sorry, one of the 4, because there's always the seasons are weird. But after that, I will be doing trolls next, so you're gonna have to wait a little bit longer for snakes, but I'm gonna be doing trolls next because they are the last in the set of, quote-unquote, season species, so I want to go ahead and just finish that off, especially because I keep bringing up or using trolls, especially like imps and goblins, and I want to actually make something very, I want to have some clear references for them, for myself mostly. So snakes are not coming yet. Next are going to be trolls, especially because I have technically drawn snakes and I have drawn bats and stuff. I just haven't dived too much into their individual subspecies and things like that. So, you know, I need to do the trolls next in terms of species, because I need to complete that entire group. So, you know. How do you get ideas for a story? Like, how do you determine the beginning, the middle, the end? I always get stuck on creating plot. I mean, that depends on what story I'm making, really, because there's not really one way to come up with a plot or come up with a story or anything like that. So I can't really answer you there because there's so many different ways I do that shit. Like, I have no one strategy for any of my stories ever. It's just all about playing around and figuring out what works for you, really. It's a wolf or a fox. I don't know what it is, honestly, at this point. I didn't look up any references for it because I didn't want to get too invested in it for something that I'm not going to keep, so, you know. Hey, what is your opinion on using Photoshop for drawing? I've been using it for like a year and it doesn't seem as special as everyone makes it out to be now that I started using other apps. I used to love using Photoshop for drawing, but I used like Photoshop Elements 15 back when I was like a starting artist and stuff like that, and I did like Photoshop Elements 15 back when I used it with those tablets and things like that, but now I like the new version of Photoshop. I don't think it's worth all that money you're required to pay Adobe just to use their fucking services, you know? Um, I think it's really inconvenient. It's definitely like, it's, I mean, a thing you have to understand with Photoshop too is that it was never made for artists. It was made for photographers, you know? That's the first thing you have to understand with like Photoshop. But then secondly, it's just like I don't think Adobe, like every time they improve Photoshop, it feels like they take away stuff people actually liked and put in things nobody asked for, you know? And it's like a and then like on top of that, I would say like if you got Photoshop for free, that's pretty awesome and that's pretty cool. Like if you got an Elements for Photoshop or something like that. But like to have an Adobe subscription just for Photoshop is not worth it. Like period. Unless you use like a ton of stuff from Adobe, it's just not worth it. Um, you know, and it's like for a while I only had it because I wanted to have Adobe Animate. So, you know, I don't think it is, at this point, I don't really think there's much more special. There's some cool stuff in there for, like, if you're a 3D animator, I guess, as I've learned from school, but I don't think compared to, like, Procreate and stuff like that, I don't really, you know, it's definitely not my favorite program anymore. What's your approach to drawing anthropomorphic animals? I love how you draw them, but I keep getting stuck on the same cutesy loophole like left over from MLP. That one would definitely be that my advice with that would just definitely be like looking at actual animals like as a reference point and actually drawing from those references specifically because the variety between animals, like if you just looked at like wolves and foxes, they're very similar in like in technical terms they're very similar, and evolutionary they're very similar, but like physically they have a lot of different characteristics. And then, you know, like the differences between like a feline head and a canine head, and then even then you can get a lot of variety just in those heads and face shapes. So I would definitely look at, you know, real animals and draw from there and learn how to stylize it the same way you would for a normal human head, you know what I mean? It's not really a different process to draw an anthro or to stylize an anthro as it is to stylize a person. It's just looking at different references, you know what I mean? So I would definitely start with just like do some studies or something, look at like look at actual pictures of the animals you want to draw. Draw the actual animal if you need to, even if it is a little bit stylized. Just try and go off of the reference, and then it'll help you better understand how it works so you can pick what you want to stylize and things like that. Realism is important to understand. That is the key. Even if you don't want to draw realism, you need to understand how real life works, because it will make you a better artist. And it will make you be able to draw things that even if they're stylized, they are still recognizable as being what you want them to be. I missed the last two D&D sessions. Oh man, we need to do D&D more, but we haven't been able to recently. We haven't been able to for like the past 2 weeks. But I mean, hey, if you missed them, they're still online. They're all in the folder on my channel, because that's what I do. That's how I do it. I've never said I'm not a furry. I mean, I don't, like, I don't really know what defines the line between furry and like any normal cuz like how many honestly, I don't understand when people are like God, furries are terrible, but oh yeah, Tom and Jerry was my favorite show as a kid. Like there's so many anthropomorphic animals in media. They're not a new thing. The Egyptians were furries. Their gods were furries. Like, it's weird to me and it just makes me wonder what people's line are. Like what's the line between a furry and a normal person if this is the case? Like does a normal person not sexualize the anthros? Is the difference the sexual appeal? Is it the is it just liking anthropomorphic animals? Because if that's the case, I think most of us are furries. In that case, hate to tell y'all, but I don't know. I've literally never understood that. Because like definitely there are some people who are really really fucking weird, and that is what it is. But then at the same time, there's plenty of non furries that are pretty fine. I don't know. I think anthropomorphic characters and animals are like cool to think about and they're cool to draw and they're a fun, interesting thing to think about. I like the more technical side of it. Um like I like thinking about kind of almost in a sense like what would animals look like had they actually evolved to be bipedal as opposed to giving them like perfect human hands and things. Like I remember I think I saw something that was talking about how like what an anthro's hand would look like if they were evolved from paws, and it was like kind of cool, and that sort of stuff I think is really fun to think about and stuff like that. What do I know? I'm just a guy trying to do my art, please. What's the problem with dressing up like an anthro character, though? That's just cosplay at that point. Because, okay, a furry wants to dress up as an anther animal. Non furries can like anther animals and still not want to dress up as one. But that still doesn't make sense, though. Because then what if somebody wants to just cosplay a character that's a species that's not them? Is like somebody who dresses up as an elf now, are they weird because they're not dressing up as a human? Like, I don't think it's weird to want to cosplay. It's just and I think like listen, some of the effort people put in those costumes to like put into those like to create those heads and stuff is pretty dang like impressive. Like for those good high quality stuff. Um I still don't see like what the difference is though. Like why is that the deciding point? Especially because again, that doesn't seem to make sense because you're still going to get made fun of as a furry. Like people still get called furries just for drawing that type of stuff. So I don't like obviously there is not a universal definition as far as I can see. But I don't know. I still think it's just weird that we act as if furries are super weird, but I think we've all seen Disney's Robin Hood. I think we've all watched Tom and Jerry. I think we all grew up with Mickey Mouse and I think we all grew up with Looney Tunes. Like I don't know. I've always thought it was like super weird to have such a weird divide between like these ones that like anthro animals, they're weird furries, and being a furry is fucked up because you like anthro animals, and then you but like even though we've all probably have grown up with anthros and stuff like that, I don't know. I think, and that's not to say there aren't some weird ass furries out there, because there definitely are, but I just think it's a weird to try and like separate people in categories as if you as a child, as if you did not have a childhood. Okay, I'm just gonna give you more human-y looking legs, because I'm tired of figuring out how your legs look, because I'm getting sick of it. Okay. Oh god. This is where all of my anatomy skills go out the window. This is where I forget how anatomy works. Oh gosh. I hate legs sometimes. You know, we're just gonna roll with this. It's fine. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about a thing about these legs. These legs are perfectly fine and have absolutely no problems at all. Don't worry about it. There we go. I'll make this work. This'll do, I guess. Something like that, at least. And the legs were attacked. Everything was just vibing until the legs decided to be bitches. How do you draw so fast? I take an hour on character and my art style is simpler. Well, it's like it's just a matter of experience. I've been doing this for a really, really long time. And then you also just sometimes you figure out how to do things faster, or you figure out how to just like accept things for how they are. And just even though it bothers you, you just ignore it and you keep working on it and you just chill with it and you deal with it. But yeah, it's just all an experience thing. It's not a bad thing to take a long time to draw, you know? Oh, goodness. Oh, I'm going to. You know what? We're just gonna, like, we're gonna just cheat at these wings. That's what we're gonna do right now. We're gonna do these wings incorrectly, because I don't have the patience. How do you draw wings so well? I die each time. I do not. I wish I could draw wings better, honestly. I don't really entirely love how I draw wings. It's just the only way I know how to do them. Just look up tutorials and things like that, honestly. I'm not the person you should be asking how to draw wings, just to be honest. I don't use a screen tablet, I use an iPad. I have an iPad Pro and I have an iPad Pencil. So that's how. I'm just gonna deal with these wings right now. Go put up with them. Well, like right now for me, it's like 2 in the afternoon because I'm in America right now. So I don't know. I can't do much to fix time zones because I can only stream when I want to stream and when I'm not busy. So, you know. No matter what time I stream, someone shall be left out, which is the shame of streaming. If I was an animal, which one do I think I would be? I have no idea, honestly. I feel like most people pick animals that they feel like they would actually be. Or not what they would actually be. What, like, the animals they like. And so I don't know from, like, a technical perspective which animal I am the most like. Especially because all animals can vary in behavior. So I don't really know. I'm not good with those kinds of questions. Not towards myself, anyway. Towards my characters, oh, I can answer those all day long because I know everything about my characters. But about myself, I got nothing because I'm a boring person. What zodiac sign are you? I'm a Virgo. Let's see. Favorite folklore slash mythology myth? I don't really know if I have a favorite myth. Like, out of all mythologies ever, I don't know if I have a favorite. Just because, like, I think maybe if I were to think of specific ones, I might, if I, like, really thought about it, but it's hard for me to do that off the top of my head. I do really like the story of Kuna from Polynesian mythology. Because in my opinion, it's really funny. How much do you believe in astrology? I am absolutely not one of those people who's like, oh yes, I can only talk about with you if our star signs are compatible. I'm not that one of those types of people. I think it's really fascinating, and I find the coincidences you'll see with personalities are really cool, or really fascinating at least. And I like it from a sort of, I guess, creative standpoint. Like, I like having characters themed off the zodiac and stuff like that. But I do not believe it's like something diehard, whatever. I think it's cool aesthetically. I don't think that it's at all like a genuine thing that you should live your life by, sort of a thing. Like, listen, if Jenna ever tells you that I can't help it, I'm a Gemini, you say, no, Jenna, you're just a bitch. That's how that goes. My DeviantArt, my YouTube name, like, just the Zodiac word, that just literally came out of the fact that I thought it was cool and I liked that name, so. And, you know, like, Zodiac's a kind of a cool thing to be called or whatever, so I just stuck with it. And I like the Zodiac. I know a lot of stuff about it, so, you know. Sometimes you just name yourself out of things that sound cool. What's your opinion on creating God characters, and how do you think people should approach them? I mean, I have an entire world that's based on the fact that there's like 18 God characters. I mean, I don't really think there's any one way people should approach God characters. That's just up for people to interpret. I mean, other civilizations interpret gods in such wildly different ways. I mean, like, the Egyptians saw the gods as like almost untouchable, otherworldly, super powerful, stuff like that. The Greeks interpreted the gods like a bunch of humanized jackasses, you know? Like, the Greek gods have a lot of human emotion and a lot of human tendencies, but the Egyptian gods were considered otherworldly and not at all mortal like. So one second, I gotta check something. It's like it's a historical thing. Just to like put into perspective is that like every culture interprets gods differently. every culture, every history, like, sees gods differently. So by making god characters for a world or whatever, uh, there's not really one way to do it, and you should never, because I mean, hell, you can make an entire story based around gods and still make it interesting, and like, you can totally make plenty of just gods be involved in stories and still make it interesting and stuff like that. I personally find, like, having powerful beings involved in a story with mortal characters and stuff like that is always kind of very intriguing and just a very interesting dynamic to have in stories and stuff like that when done correctly. There is an amino somebody made for me a long time ago, but I'm just going to tell you right now, I don't check it. I don't like amino. I don't use amino anymore. So there is an amino for me if you want to go use it. I think it ended up kind of just turning into like a pseudo Steven Universe group last time I looked at it, but you know, there is one out there that exists. But I don't really use amino anymore. I just don't really like it. Plus, I'm not exactly the most enthused with how they've handled stuff like art theft and things like that, so you know. What's your thought on the new Zodiacs? It doesn't exist. Orpha Pinchot is trash, and NASA can come fight me if they want. We're not talking about Orthopinchus. I'm tired of talking about Orthopinchus. It doesn't exist, and NASA does not know what they're talking about. That's all I have to say. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. Especially because, like, listen, I refuse to accept a zodiac sign that not only makes it weird because now not all the zodiac signs aren't relatively equally spaced, but also the fact that it makes Scorpio 8 days long, and I'm not really for that because that seems stupid. So, like, or it makes it like 5 or 8 days long, which is really, really dumb. And also the fact that this isn't like after like even before NASA ever announced, oh yeah, it's confirmed, it's the 13th star sign. Even before that, like, people already were bringing it up, and it, like, any astrologer or anyone who knows what they're talking about and stuff like that with regards to it, all say no, it's really not a star sign because it doesn't fit into what it's actually supposed to be. I'm not going to recite the entire thing I read because I don't know it by heart, so I don't want to do it. But, like, you can look into it and see it, but it's no. Don't listen. If anyone says Orthopinchus is an actual sign, don't listen to them. It's lies. Lies. Could a unicorn satyr hybrid exist in Heaven's Proxies? No. It could most definitely not, because neither unicorns nor satyrs are technically supposed to have children anyway, so they wouldn't be able to realistically exist. You could technically have it where it's like, here's a half satyr, here's a half unicorn, and they had a kid together, and so technically they are now both part satyr and unicorn, but a satyr and unicorn themselves cannot have a child together. It's impossible. Because that's how I decided it would be. Especially because nature would have no idea how to handle such a thing, because satyrs have to be male, unicorns have to be female. So, you know, when you put those together, it's nature just has a 404 and doesn't know how to handle it, so... Who am I? Who are you, Quan? Who are you? What is your favorite types of designs to make? Historical, fantasy, futuristic? I mean, it varies. I don't really have any specific designs, I guess. I mean, high fantasy is always really cool, and in that regard, I actually really like making royalty, I guess. But honestly, I also like designing. I think I just like designing kind of royalty or high class characters for any world, just because the imagining what that would look like is very interesting to me. But I also really love designing like monsters and things like that. So, just depends on my mood. All right, there she is. We're gonna just call that good. And there we do. We have an ice queen. What do you know? How you doing? We can start working on our Christmas spirits. Y'all need to play basketball a little quieter outside. Excuse me. Some people are trying to draw like a hermit, so All right, here we go. Do you know what you're going to do for Christmas? I mean, go home and visit my family and then go visit my friends, but that's more for New Year's, technically. Can't believe people actually go outside. What heathens. Glasses, oh no. Yeah, listen, I had the idea when I was doodling her. I was like, what if I gave her, because she's the past, what if I gave her rose tinted glasses? Oh ho ho ho. Aren't I the most clever? Oh my gosh. Is it okay to take inspirations from your outfit designs if you are given credit? I mean, it just depends. I mean, like, maybe don't copy, like, if it's for an original story, maybe don't, like, copy things exactly, but you can take inspiration from me. Inspiration is not illegal. I do declare that inspiration is not an illegal act in a court of law. Oh my god, can y'all not scream, por favor? You know, we're just gonna keep the rose theme going here. We're gonna just give her a crown of roses. The more I want. Oh no. Why are y'all screaming in Spanish? Y'all need to stop screaming. God, now I'm thinking of hibachi again. Shit. God, I want hibachi so much. I don't like that one. That one's bad. I like lilies. Lilies are nice flowers. I also like orchids a lot. Those are also nice flowers. Y'all need to be quiet out that side. Like, stop hollering. How do you function with all these pop-ups? Listen, my Discord notifications have always been on. That's how I deal with pop-ups. I'm used to them by now. Especially because there's no noise. It's the noise that always gets on my nerves. Or like if they get in the way of me doing something, but thankfully that top bar on Procreate is like, there's nothing right there, so... Why are y'all still screaming? What are you even screaming about? And yes, I mean the chat this time. Why y'all surprised I have Discord? I've streamed before. They've showed up on screen. Mm. Oh my gosh. Everyone's yelling. I didn't tell y'all to stop. I just asked why. No! Please dribble that ball as loud as possible out there. I can't hear the ball dribble. That was my mom there. Hang on, I gotta finish these and then I gotta see what my mom wants. Oh gosh. Hear what from my mom? It was a text message! It was a text message. And it popped up on the screen. Gosh. All y'all asking weird questions. I don't know how to handle this. Seeing your art makes me want to revisit mine. I feel like so much of its personality has been lost. Have you ever experienced something similar, and do you have any tips on how to deal with this? I don't know if I've ever experienced having not enough personality in my artwork, just because I think I've always drawn kind of from myself. I mean, my best recommendation would just be, like, just make sure you're drawing what you want to draw. Don't let it be determined by, like, I need to draw it this way or I need to draw it that way. Just draw what you want it to look like and what you want to draw and whatever you're satisfied with. And I don't know, hopefully that should help you. Sorry, I'm texting my mom. No idea what shoes I'm going with. I guess I'm gonna go with just some, I don't know, something like this. As you do. That's my opinion on frogs. I mean, I like frogs. Frogs are cute. Oh my gosh, Mom. Oh my gosh, Mom. Sorry, my mom is having a conversation with me. Oh my goodness. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm really sorry, guys. I'm having a conversation. I can't read the chat while I'm talking with my mom right now, so I'm sorry. I didn't expect her. I don't know why my parents always have to do this at like while I'm streaming. Ah! She can't see all I'm texting her, so Pickle, Pickle, if you want them reviewed by me specifically, I only do them through DeviantArt, and I'm sorry about that. If you don't mind like having other people review them, you can ask anywhere. But if you want them specifically reviewed by me and you can't do it on DeviantArt, I'm sorry, I don't really do them outside of like rare occasions on DeviantArt. And even then, it's not really a guarantee. So I wouldn't try and be super diehard about getting one from me specifically. There's plenty of people out there who can give you perfectly fine character reviews. Too. You don't. It doesn't always have to be a larger creator or somebody who like can't like a specific person. You know. Sometimes just getting advice from general random people can sometimes be helpful too. Pickle, I needed to, again, like I said, even if you do it on DeviantArt, I only do them occasionally, and even then, I pick and choose which ones I do. So if you really want someone else's opinion on it, I would not go for me, because you are not guaranteed to get one from me, and that's what I'm trying to say. If you want somebody's opinion on your OC's backstory, like, right now in the near future, do not try to pursue that through me because it's a very low chance you will get that. How do you make a good character bio? I mean, again, that's something that like it depends on what you're going for technically. I'll say for me, oh God, come on, don't do this. Screen, stop doing this right now, please. If you're looking for like, I don't know, in my opinion, I personally like it when people make their bios a bit more fun facty and less really, really, really long and overly detailed. I used to think you had to make them super long and detailed, but trust me, you do not. Like, for example, in my opinion, if your character has a visual reference that they're being posted with, and people can physically see the character on screen, my recommendation would be do not put in your bio section a section where you talk about what color their hair is and what type of skin tone they have, or what type of hairstyle they wear, because you have a visual reference for that. I mean, I'd also recommend, because again, I used to think having a super long detailed bio with every little tiny thing sectioned off about your character was what you had to do, but really nowadays for my bios, I prefer having like some really basic information, like here's their name, here's their species, here's their gender, whatever. And then I'd have a list of just bullet points that talk about both their personality, their backstory, and just fun facts about them. And I find that to be not only a lot more fun to write and fun to read, but a lot more easier to digest. And it actually can help people understand your character a little bit better than having that long separated bio. Because in reality, everyone might have exceptions to their personality traits, or their personality traits could be much different than someone might assume of them, but it's hard to understand that unless you really see the personality traits in play with like the character's backstory or something like that, you know what I mean? So I would just recommend like not trying to overcomplicate it so much, and honestly just make sure you have information in there that's relevant to your character, especially if you want to have them drawn or something like that. But honestly, having like a list and more general information as opposed to having every little detail about their personality sectioned off is honestly probably, like, in my opinion, is often a lot better and a lot more easier for people to read and understand. And it can, in a lot of ways, help with the problem of asking why, you know, like, because I know a big issue with reading characters is it's always hard to tell, like, okay, but maybe it's something in their backstory and I don't know what that is yet, so maybe that's explained in a story or something. But having those like things explained side by side makes just things a lot, I don't know, I'm not making sense anymore, but yeah, that's just my personal opinion though. Again, it's just one of those things. It's not really a strictly right way to do it. Do you have any advice on world building and or making different species? I mean, I'm sorry, again, like, if a lot of answers I've given this stream, it depends on what you're doing. It depends what world you're trying to make. It depends what vibe you're going for, what species you're going for. And world building, again, there is absolutely no right way to do world building or species creation or anything like that. So I don't really have any general advice on that kind of thing, except, like, have fun with it. That would be my only real advice. So I'm sorry, I know that's not really helpful, but that world building and species creation are two extremely broad subjects. So I don't really know anything I can say that's super helpful about it. changing her hair up a little bit. Lock here. Super lock. These are adoptables that I'm working on. They're December themed adoptables. So this one specifically is supposed to be kind of like Ghost of Christmas Past or whatever, like Ghost of Holiday Past, whatever you want to call it. Because I like A Christmas Carol, so theme some off of the holiday spirits. How can you adopt these characters? Well, you can. They'll go up on DeviantArt once they're all done, and they'll be up for auction. So if you have a DeviantArt account, you can bid on them there. I might also. I'm still debating on it. I might also allow people to auto bid them during my streams, but they will be pretty expensive to auto bid. But if I might do that. And if I will, I'll go ahead, I'll make something and I'll have it on screen in the future if I start doing that. So that might be possible, but for the most part, it'll be on DeviantArt is where the actual auction's going to happen whenever I finish these. I think that's good enough for her. Methinks. Let me make this flower a little bit smaller. What's the starting price? Unless I change my mind, probably the same as the witches, so probably about like $25 is going to be the starting bid. I guess we'll just go for broke and we'll try and do the last two here. Do you usually color? Oh, I color them. They're gonna get colored. I'm just lining them all right now. How do you go about designing characters in terms of showing their personality through design? Do you use the squares, triangles, and circles method? You can. For me personally, and yes, the circles, triangles, square kind of idea does work and can be very effective, but I also do think that there is a point to where you need a little bit more, you know what I mean? Because while shape language in terms of like that kind of stuff is very powerful, and it can work in more ways than just in the body. You can use it in like hairstyles, and you can use it in like clothing and stuff like that. I mean, I could technically say that but there's also more to it than that, I think, personally. Because circles, triangles, and squares, I should say, are a very, very good jumping off point. But I also do think that it is a bit personality for characters, and showing them in an idle design is a lot more than just circles, squares, and triangles. You know what I mean? I mean, even the characters I have in this one, let me just go through here real quick. I mean, like, very obviously very circular, very round for like my rabbit here, but there's also like some there's a lot of triangle or cylindrical shapes going on, you know what I mean? Like the hat, the body is a lot more kind of like cylindrical or cone like. For the wolf character, it is a lot more triangular or hard edged, lots of sharp kind of edges, and it gives a more of an appearance of. Now that's bothering me. Shoot. Let me talk while I fix that. Gives kind of the appearance of somebody who's maybe fast, maybe athletic, very maybe energetic, things like that. And you can get that without it have to be necessarily triangles. I mean, the torso right here is a lot more boxy, especially combined with the legs. Like, this is a lot more boxy than triangular. But because the angles are very sharp, it gives the impression of something energetic or athletic or sort of loud, you know what I mean? With sort of Regal Queen over here, there are a lot of sharper edges, giving the idea of kind of more hard-edged, maybe judgmental kind of a thing, and regal. But there's also a lot of showing character when you're doing a character can be a lot more than shapes as well. Like, for example, for the owl, her facial expression can tell you a lot about like her attitude and stuff like that, and what she might be thinking, her air, stuff like that. For past over here that I now need to adjust on screen because I didn't realize she was so off center. You know, she's not, I mean, if you look at her specifically, she doesn't really have a lot in terms of triangles, squares, and circles. Her shape in general is a lot more of kind of a rectangle sort of thing going on. She's very long in a sense. So, you know, there's some of the stuff like that. Sorry, I was like, got some, but like, there's more to it than just exactly shapes being at play. And like, for example, what you'll learn with shapes is that squares are supposed to be sturdy and strong and unmovable. But, you know, I have a square character right here that is a lot more, a bit more jollier, more friendly looking, more warm and happy, as opposed to like hard and firm. And a lot of that just can come from the sort of, for example, what clothes your characters wear, the kinds of colors you use for them. Shapes and silhouettes are very good, yes, but also it comes from the posing that they have. It can show a lot about their energy and things like that. And again, like I said, you know, while circles, squares, and triangles are a very, very, very good jumping off point for character and language and personality, there's definitely a lot more to go about it than just what shapes you use. You know, the sort of angles you use, the position of those angles, using more complex shapes as opposed to just the three basic ones. You know, a lot of it can read differently, and sometimes it's a combination of all the elements that really show you what it's kind of supposed to be. So that's kind of like how I usually go about it, is that shapes are very key, but it's also just kind of the overall silhouette they have in the very end. Is the silhouette going to look more warm and welcoming, or is the silhouette going to look more like sturdy and firm? Are they going to look a bit more... are their angles going to come off more evil, or are their angles going to come off more energetic? It's a combination of a lot of elements that sort of determine how that language is read when you look at them. And I know that was a long tangent for me to go on, and I'm sure I got lost in there in some point, but yeah, I hope that helped somebody, I guess. What kind of adopts am I doing? They're December themed. So three of them are like kind of animal based. Uh, they're like winter animals, and these ones are based off the three spirits from A Christmas Carol because I like that story a lot. Woo. Which of these do you think is going to be the hardest to give away? They're technically like your I don't. Why have people? They're not. I would not call these my babies necessarily. I haven't described any story to these characters quite yet. So, I mean, in design terms, I think I talked about this earlier in the stream. I don't see these designs as my babies. I see them as cool designs as of right now. So, I mean, in terms of design, I think Death is personally the cutest, in my opinion. So Death might be the hardest for me to part with because I like the design a lot, but not because I see them as like my babies yet in terms of like how I see my Luniverse or my Heaven's Proxies characters as my babies. If I really saw them as my babies, I would not be selling them online. I'll tell you that for certain. Hello, iPad screen. Could you please? Oh, I need a new iPad so badly. The screen, the multi-touch is not doing good. Just adding some extra flair. Alright, now I gotta do a beard. Alright. Y'all still free to ask questions, by the way. I don't know, like, how many new people we have in here, so that's the only reason why I mention it. Oh, gosh. Well, we'll just, like... Doop-doop-doo. It's a beard! I need to draw more, like, facial hair and stuff like that, honestly. Beards are fun. What's my least favorite part about being an artist with a large following? I mean, it is frustrating sometimes with, like, art theft and stuff, but that's sometimes tolerable, unless it's, like, unless it's somebody who's stealing your art and trying to sell it, because that is not Gucci. That's not good at all. I can typically forgive kids who don't understand what they're doing. There is definitely some, I think probably it sometimes can get tiring because sometimes you'll get a lot of duplicate questions, and it's not that, like, the questions themselves are wrong to ask, and I never have anything against the people who ask the questions. It's like, for example, what brushes do you use? Every single time I post something on YouTube, every single time, what brushes do you use? And after a while, I've sort of stopped answering unless I'm in a good mood, because I answer that question so many times. And I think that's probably the most frustrating thing about, like, when you have a decently sized following, is that you'll start to get those questions that you just get so many times, where it's like, it's not that the person is wrong or invalid for asking those questions, it's just that, like, it's like, oh great, I have to answer it again, it's just, I think that's probably the most frustrating part, especially because you can't just tell people, don't ask me that, or, like, how dare you ask me that, because it's not really wrong to ask those kinds of questions. And I especially don't want people to feel like they can't ask me a question because, oh my god, has somebody asked him that before? But I don't know, I think that's the only thing that's ever, like, consistently maybe bugged me or something like that, just because it does, after a while, it does get a little bit mentally tiring sometimes. Capri Sun was my shit. I drank Capri Sun every fucking day. That is a fact. Drank it all the way up till high school. Even in high school, I drank Capri Suns. Give him some berries and leaves. Down to Capri Suns at once. Have you ever thought of doing a frequently asked questions video that you can just link when someone asks or others can link? I've done that, but I've done Q&As before. I've had a frequently asked thing on my DeviantArt for a long time, but I just got tired of updating it. Particularly with like how old are you kind of a thing. And at this point I don't it's so tedious to keep up with it. And even then it's almost like I'll have it on my I will have it for a long time. When I did have one, I had it on my DeviantArt. I had it advertised on my page, and I would still get people asking me those questions on my front page. And that was, so it got to a point where I was like, it's not even worth the time and the effort because people are still not going to go read it. So I don't know. And plus, like, I can't, for example, I cannot explain what brushes I use through text because, like, most of them just have really basic names that don't really tell you much about what the brush does. And also, not only that, but I use so many different brushes when I draw, because I mean, yes, I have my line art brush, and I know that's the one that most people mean when they ask, but like, for shading, I don't use the line art brush, I use a hard airbrush. For certain special effects, I use other kinds of brushes. So it just got to a point where it just wasn't even working because, like, I had it, yeah, but people wouldn't go look at it. And so it became like, well, why do I have to link them to it when I could just answer the question anyway? I don't know. The one thing that drives me absolutely nuts is that people can't read. And it's like, people can't even be bothered. I've legitimately seen things before that were like, people are like, oh, I don't really care. I don't really want to read it. It's too long. So can you just tell me? And it's like, no, I did. I typed it out to you. It's like, that shit grates on my nerves. Like, if you're not going to be bothered to read, then I'm not going to be bothered to answer your question. Thank you. I think, what was it? Shoot. I remember there was like a specific time when somebody literally said that word for word, like, I don't want to read, or it's like there's too much to read. So here's my question. It was like literally exactly in the thing. And I almost responded with, if you're not bothered to read, then I'm not bothered to answer your question. But I didn't actually reply with that because I didn't want to get into some shit, but I was really, really tempted to. Just now, like, listen, if you don't want to read, that's fine. If you're too tired to read, whatever. But then you're not allowed to ask questions. That's just the rule. That is the law. I do decree it. Like, God, I swear, it's so stupid, the amount of people on like YouTube, for example, who will ask, like, what song's in the video? And you'll, like, look at your own description and be like, I don't know. What song is in the video? If only there was a place where the person could have put it, so you could find a link and take you directly to the song that was in the video. What a weird concept would that be? Or like when people will ask, like, what programs do you use on your YouTube video, where you have them in the description of every single video that you have art in, and the people just are like, oh yeah, what programs do you use? And you just have to kind of sit there, be like, I don't know, man. What programs do I use? That's a great question. Can't believe someone's never asked that before. Like, I don't know. It's just so... I can't stand that shit. There he is. There's Papa. It's Papa. do you think male character? Ooh, this is interesting. Okay, do you think male characters should have sharper features, or do you think that it depends on entirely on the character and their personality and or purpose? Well, um, here's what I will say about that. It very much in a narrative sense, in a narrative storytelling sense. If you want to make sure that a character is, from the second they are like on screen, are read a certain way, you have to be able to make sure that, like, if, for example, if you want to be able to differentiate, here are female characters, here are male characters, whatever, then realistically, male and female bodies do have different physical traits, typically. And it's affected because of hormones, you know? There's a reason why feminine features are typically softer, while male features are typically harder. However, that is such a varying thing. So while most men do have sharper features and things like that, most, not all of them do. And some men out there might have softer jaw lines or softer features or more effeminate features, if you will. And then on the contrary, some women have harsher features than some men do. I've always felt like if you were to take my head and take it off my body and look at it, you would never doubt. You would just look at me and know, like, you'd think I was a guy immediately. But because of, like, my voice and my body, that's why I typically, people still assume ma'am or miss or whatever, which is not like a big deal. If I'm going to a, like, Wendy's to get some food and they call me ma'am, it doesn't really freak me out that much. But, like, you know, there's a lot of people who have looked, like, I've gone to restaurants before while I'm sitting down and, like, had people go, like, sir, and then when I talk, they get, like, they're not sure, you know? Because my face is rather masculine. I don't know, gifted with that, I guess. But, you know, so realistically, yes, that is something that should be considered. But while, yeah, and I mean, I make effeminate guys all the time and things like that. And honestly, there are ways to make a character look effeminate or masculine without making them strictly look, without making them, like, look too overly masculine or too overtly feminine, you know? You can do it in very, very subtle ways. However, there, again, people like that exist who are the out of the norm, technically, out of the scientific norm. My only warning would be is that you have to understand that most people have been raised, or our brains have been trained to recognize certain traits, you know what I mean? And like, so I have seen people before who get really pissed off that, like, people don't recognize their male characters are male, but they draw them in the most feminine, like, their bodies in the most feminine way possible. And, you know, or, like, people who get upset that, like, oh, I have this female character who's, like, really buff, has really, like, sharp jaw lines and, like, really masculine looking, like, body features, and, like, oh, but I can't believe people think that it's a guy. And it's like, yeah, we naturally are just kind of gonna assume a leaning way, you know what I mean? Because we are raised and also biologically programmed to register certain traits as being masculine and feminine. And that's not necessarily wrong, and that's also not to say that we can't, like, raise somebody to believe otherwise, you know? It's just a matter that, like, don't be surprised if you make, for example, because I see this a lot, if you make a male character who has large hips, very soft facial features, and are, like, rather petite and small, don't be surprised if people think assume that they're a girl when they look at them. Because that's just, unfortunately, like, that's rather effeminate. And yes, like you said, it does sometimes depend on age. It does depend on age. And the reason why like a male and a female kid are going to look almost the same physically is because they haven't hit their prepubescent. It's puberty, and it's if we're gonna get scientific here, adjusts glasses. Scientifically, it is testosterone and estrogen and the balancing levels of that and the other hormones we have that we go through puberty that determines how our features are expressed. That's why when you go through prepubescence, that's why boys' voices will drop. It's why, while girls may not. It's why a girl will start to develop breasts while a boy may not. It's why males typically will start to get sharper, more masculine looking features, while girls will start to get more feminine looking features. It's just a part of science and puberty and things like that, you know? So yes, technically speaking, if you want your characters to read as male and female when they're standing next to each other, you should take into consideration the fact of like how you know, like shapes and how certain features are going to look and how they're going to register in somebody's brain when they look at them. But that is, of course, not to say that that is the rule. Not all men have super masculine, sharp physical features, and not all women have super soft, effeminate looking features. It always depends on the person, their body type. It always depends on how their hormones have reacted to them. It always depends on just genetics in general, you know, stuff like that. So I hope that helped a little bit, you know. I definitely don't think that male characters have to have sharper features, because you can definitely make them read as male without immediately, without like having to give them super masculine features or super hard features. And again, like I said, you can do that sort of stuff very subtly as well. Like, for example, if you're doing a jawline, you don't have to do this with like the pointy jaw, like with the with like a super pointy chin and like super pointy nose to get like it's like a Yowie hands kind of face. To like, you know, you don't need to draw this to get a masculine face. A masculine face can just be like, you know, something like just having like like very very slight, you know, it can be extremely subtle. Like, see, that looks like, this still looks masculine and it's not anything like this, you know, and then you can easily make that look kind of effeminate whenever it's like you just add some subtle curves, maybe give it like slightly fuller lips, make the jawline just slightly softer, and you can suddenly turn them into looking a slightly more feminine. It's all about like tricks of the eye, and you know, subtlety is always possible whenever you're doing that kind of stuff. So I hope that made sense. I'm sorry that was way too long. I go on, my tangents are always too long. Always way too long. Now it's time for baby. I would always subscribe for your tangents. Good, because there's many of those. I mean, technically it's not death. Technically it's the ghost of Christmas future. Woo, spooky. Gosh, I remember I saw a play. There's a place in Dallas that will do a yearly Christmas Carol production, like a theater production, and they change it up every year. Like one year they had like a female Scrooge. They change it up, like sometimes they'll change like what time period it's set in, whatever, which is always really cool. So one year they had, I went and saw it with like my theater group, and they had, you know, they're doing all the ghosts and stuff like that, and so that's all cool and fine and dandy. I think they actually had it where it was like, they had I can't remember it. But what I do remember is that their Ghost of Christmas Future was actually, they had it be Tiny Tim, and they had Tiny Tim and they put the kid in like really like scary looking like death makeup, like skeleton looking makeup, and they made that be their Ghost of Christmas Future, and it was such a really cool choice, and it was really creepy and like unsettling, and I liked it a lot. So this is somewhat what the inspiration for this future is. But yeah, it was really cool. Especially because you weren't expecting it. Especially because that costume change was really fast, and since that was like a child, you knew that some like adults had to help that kid change super fast, and it was like, whoa, that was quick. That was a quick change if there ever was one. Because kids don't usually sit still, so. Look at him go, look at him go. What a good baby. After this, I'm gonna go ahead and end the stream after I do this one. So, I'll stream it again when I color them, obviously, but, you know. Which Barbie movie are we talking about, though? I don't remember which one had the ghosts of past, present, and future in it. What are your favorite colors to use in designs? I mean, honestly, I will use almost any color in designs, but gold accents are my shit. It's so hard for me to not to give like every single design I make gold accents. Or yellow accents, or whatever color you want to call it. If it's, listen, the difference between gold accents and yellow accents to me is that if it's in the future, it's yellow, or if it's in the present, it's yellow, and if it's in the past, it's gold. I don't make the rules. Alright, I'm gonna, since that one's done, I'm gonna end it here-ish, but first I'm gonna try and, like, I'll hang out, so if you have any, like, last-second burning questions, ask them while I'm here. How long was this? About like an hour or two? Are you interested in animation? I mean, I'm technically going to a college for VFX and animation and stuff like that, so. I mean, I have animations on my YouTube channel, you know. Don't mind me. How often do you draw? Oh, like every fucking day. This is my what I do. It's what I do. Alright, my throat is dry as a desert, so I'm gonna go ahead and go. Thank y'all for coming, and I will hopefully come with more of these soon whenever I get around to coloring them. So I'll be streaming the coloring stuff and all that, so keep an eye out for that. And I will see you guys next time, and I can't believe this stream lasted to the very end without crashing.